What's going on, everybody? It's F Major. I want to take some time today to talk to y'all about production and some things I've been thinking about. Um, I've done a lot of videos, and I'm sure you guys have seen me talk about certain ideas and concepts in terms of production. But I want to make sure that I'm staying balanced and being responsible at the same time, because if I don't, then I think I'll be doing a disservice to y'all. This video, I think, is going to be the last time I really discuss gear in a video, because I think for a lot of people, this type of discussion makes them lose focus on what the real point is. And the real point is to make good music and be creative and use music as a expression and a creative outlet to display to the world. And sometimes, as electronic musicians, I won't limit it to like producers or hip hop artists or anything like that. Electronic musicians can oftentimes get caught up in techniques and tools rather than music. And what happens is, when we start getting caught up in techniques and tools, we start to approach music from a scientific level when it should be approached more from an artistic and creative level. And I'll qualify that more by saying that a lot of times as electronic musicians, we start focus more on the tools of the trade and how these tools will help our workflow, and how these tools will operate within our studio, and how these things will help us to achieve a certain sound that we're looking for. And this is very much a scientific approach. And if you're not careful, this approach can take up most of your time when you're trying to do music. And what happens is, when you're coming up as an electronic musician, sometimes you start trying to figure out, how did such and such achieve a certain sound that they had in a record. So for example, you say, oh, I want to make a Dirty South track. Well, you have to understand what that implies. When you say you want to make a Dirty South track, what you're immediately thinking is that there is some type of scientific formula that creates a Dirty South track. So then your search is to make sure that you have all of the tools and you understand all the techniques that you heard used in a certain Dirty South track in order for you to make an approximation of that sound. And this is okay in order to, from an academic standpoint, if you want to learn how to make music, this is okay. But overall, from a creative standpoint, it's not okay, because it's a wrong mindset, because you start approaching everything as, I need certain gear, certain VSTs, a certain set of techniques that I have to understand how to use in order to make music. And realistically, it's more to it than that. It's deeper than that. In order to make good music, you need to have a idea or concept that you want to evoke and you want other people to feel. You should have a vision, an artistic vision that you want to express, more so than saying that you want to do a West Coast track and you want to have pianos and synth bass and synth lead and strings. That puts you into the mindset of thinking that you need certain gear to make music. So I want to make sure I'm being responsible and telling you guys, look, music should not be taken from a scientific level all the time. It's okay to practice and learn different techniques, but if you spend most of your time trying to develop workflow, trying to develop a recording chain, trying to make sure you have all these tools necessary to create or approximate certain sounds that you've already heard, then you're not spending enough time actually being creative and moving forward in music. And that can get you caught up in it. That can slow you down in terms of progressing as a musician and someone that has a true identity as a musician. Because when you say you want to make a West Coast sound or a Dirty South or East Coast sound, all you're doing is taking a mental picture of things that you've already heard used in that type of style sound, and you're trying to approximate or create a better version of it based on a scientific formula that you've created for that sound. And now I'm understanding why so many people spend so much time buying equipment, getting a room full of equipment, and have all these different tools. And it's more so because they are scared that they won't be able to create the sound that they're looking for. And realistically, that approach is not approaching music from an artistic level. So don't get consumed by the tools and techniques. You need to start thinking about, what do I want people to feel when they hear my music? And given the tools that I have now, how can I make people feel that way? You don't need to buy more tools, and you don't need to keep learning different techniques. You need to develop your own techniques and your own approach so that you can have a distinct take on what that feeling actually sounds like if it was in music form. Okay, I don't care if you're talking about a club track or you're talking about some type of gangster track or some type of spiritual track. Whatever you're talking about, you have to understand how to relate that into music instead of thinking that a certain gear is going to get you there, because the gear is not going to get you there. I don't care how much gear you get. You know, if you ever wonder why a lot of people start musical ideas and never finish them, this is the reason. It's because they're approaching it from a scientific state. And if they started to look at it in terms of a artistic development, then they will be able to fully realize the composition that they're working on, and they will never lose focus on it. Because it's easy to lose focus when you're doing a scientific experiment, because once you've already applied the use of the tools and the techniques that you wanted to prove or create this sound with, you can quickly lose direction, and you get stuck, and then you scrap a beat, or you scrap the music you're working on, or you put it to the side and say, okay, well, I'll come back to that. Well, it's because you didn't have a vision in the first place. You had a scientific experiment that you were successful in. You created something that sounded like some other West Coast style track that you heard, or some other Dirty South, or some other pop sound that you heard. And that's what gets you into the whole idea of buying gear, so that you don't feel inadequate in achieving that sound. So that's my rant. I just wanted to get that out there. Make sure that people understand it's not about gear. Music is not about gear. Music is not about techniques and having this set of tools to use in order to make sounds. If that's all it was, then music will be very uninteresting and very stale and mundane. So if you find yourself constantly trying to approximate a sound, or constantly searching for gear, or constantly searching for this perfect workflow, and constantly searching for the sound that somebody used in such and such track, then you're missing the point, and you may want to reevaluate why you're doing music. But at the same time, that's not to say you can't do music. You can still do music, but I will say that when you take that approach, it's easy to lose perspective, and it's easy to lose your direction. So keep that in mind when you're doing music. Like I said, this is going to be my last gear talk, because I don't want to be that person that influences people to constantly think about gear, workflow, and what the best way to work is, and what the best DAW and sequencer and best VST and hardware analog synth and all of that, because that's not necessary. If you focus on your creative vision, you'll get further, and you'll be able to make a higher standard of music, and you'll have music that actually will stand out because it's coming from the aspect of trying to display a certain emotion or creative vision, rather than just trying to emulate or approximate a sound that you heard. I hope this helps people. I'll get at y'all later. we're gonna keep it music. So Altruist TV will continue to stay music oriented and less gear oriented. But when NAMM comes, I'll still have videos for y'all because NAMM is cool. But anyhow, hope this helps y'all. I'll holler at y'all later. Peace.